In fact, it's so expensive that I absolutely should not be driving it on the road. And so right now I'm going to take it out on the road. They all look absolutely awesome. They're supposed to be sort of a retro thing that reminds us of the old GT, but they also just feel really cool to touch and press. And I have to admit, sometimes I'm driving down the road and I kind of flick the hazard lights on for a second just to feel how they feel. It's for driving, and we must talk about the little setting for creep. Creep is one of the most interesting things. In this car, that's configurable. You can turn it off and then it won't roll forward, or you can turn it on and then it will roll forward. And my foot, I can feel, is sort of resting on this overstuffed floor mat. And the only things I hear are the things making me more comfortable, the cooled seat and the climate control. I look out over the Spirit of Ecstasy and I'm reminded that I'm better than all these people. It's like climbing into a hot tub after like a long hike. That's what this car is. It's like the automotive equivalent of that. But I can't hear a thing going on outside. I mean, there might be cars out there, there might be poorer people out there, but I don't hear them. That is the Maybach logo. For most people who don't know, it won't mean anything, but for those of us who do know, well, we also know that the person being chauffeured around in this car can buy your family. And you can buy a V12 powered SUV with the aerodynamics of a refrigerator. This is the single stupidest car for sale today. It starts at $222,000. And it's shaped like a file cabinet. Cool factor depends on who you are. You see one of these climbing the trails in Moab and it's an easy 10, while you see one of these parked outside Fashion Island in Newport Beach with the driver screaming at a store employee for ordering the fuchsia coat instead of purple, and it's more like a -50.
And I called my wife when I got here to California and I told her I am so glad I did not buy the G-Wagon. And then there's another part of the driving experience which I think doesn't get covered enough, and that is simply how people look at you and feel about you. This car can only be driven by people who just have no shame in their appearance and their social standing and that sort of thing. I think there is a perception that when you're driving this thing, you're a total jerk and some rich jerk, and the kind of people who drive it are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care what anybody thinks, they can just have, that's their problem. And I don't behave in that way. That's not how I feel. So I couldn't tolerate sort of the social ostracism that would come from driving around in one of these vehicles.
And if you're not put off by the exposed hinges, then take a look into the door gap. Look at all that stuff you can see in there. Every other car, the door gap would be 1/10 of this size, and it would line up flush with the body. In this car, the door is fully closed, and you can see everything in there. It looks unfinished. This panel gap is insane. It's ridiculously large. You could stick a tube of toothpaste in here, as I shall now demonstrate.
All right, time to stick a tube of toothpaste in a Maserati panel gap. All right, here we go. It fell out. It's too big. We need a bigger tube of toothpaste. There we go. Tube of toothpaste in a Maserati panel gap. That's 3/4 throttle. I'm not even flooring it there. And it's like, this thing is so much faster than my station wagon.
Man, the downshift. Oh!
There you go. Shit. This is a pretty rough road, and I'm in performance mode here. And it's so much more comfortable than my station wagon. God, this car is so much more comfortable than my station wagon. This car feels like I am a professional driver, even though I'm really just an idiot wearing shorts.
Okay, another thing you might be wondering, I know I am, can you drive around with the doors up? I don't know, let's find out. Yes, you can. And it doesn't end there. Check this out. Put it in steering wheel adjustment mode, and those little wheels adjust the position of the steering wheel. One of them tilts it up and down, and the other one telescopes it forward and back. And yes, as I showed you, the scroll wheels go up and down, of course, but they also go left to right, and they feel pretty high quality. They don't feel like they're about to fall out or that they're jiggly. Then you press the power button to turn on the stereo, and they all come to life. That might be a little bit of a gimmick, but I personally think it is a really cool party trick, and I love playing with that stereo on-off button. This one in here in the middle, it's completely open underneath this center control stack. You can reach over and touch your driver or passenger's legs depending on where you're sitting. It's kind of an interesting feature. You can't put anything in there, it's just open so you can see through it. Out these windows. Yes, what you see down here at the bottom of the door is not just a little black panel, but rather a window, a lower window to complement the upper window. This door has two side windows, and the lower window looks at the ground. So when you drive around in your Senna, you can look through the lower window. Also ridiculous is the fact that it's so big, I can do this. Because when you open up the hood in this car, well, there's a hole in it. This car has a hole in its hood. Allow me to explain. Now, the that rolls down into the door like a standard window. Anything above that is just fixed glass canopy. Now, the other interesting item, there is a little pass-through. Push this, and this thing folds down so you can get, well, narrow extra long items through. I tell you, with the roof off in this car, it is just a total joy. It's everything you could want. You got the incredible speed and the incredible handling and the technology and everything that makes this car cool. But now, I can see the sky. The sun visor is a mirror, and it's not mounted in the sun visor. Instead, you can pull it out and use it for whatever purposes you might need a mirror for in Miami in the 80s. Important item to note about the I-Pace is that it has pretty good rear seat room. The front seat is actually where I would sit when I'm driving. And I know one of my favorite things to do with the Cullinan is because the seats are split folding, there's one button for the left side, one for the right side, you can hold down both buttons at once and play seat drag race. You ready? Okay, here we go, and they're off. Oh, left is off to a slight lead, just very slight, maybe a centimeter total. Come on. Oh, left is slowed down, right is taking the lead. Oh, left is the lead back. Oh, wow, it looks like left got down just maybe a quarter of a second. Check this out, shift into Corsa mode and then things get really exciting. Over on the left, you can see, I can't remember what you can see, I wrote it down. Challenger looks like it just ate a couple of small, cute woodland creatures grazing in the forest. We're just like in a serene bubble away from the world. I don't have to think about anybody out there in their cheap cars. Just take this thing on a long trip across the country and just live like this. Literally just, and when someone cuts me off, I'd be like, I don't really care. And as a result, I'm 6'3", and I don't have any room back here. I can stand up back here. And I'm 6'4", and things I like, I'm too big for this car. I'm 6'3". Would Doug lie to you? Yeah, probably, but I'm not lying right now. Wrong. Haha. See ya.